I remember the exact moment I realized my entire financial life was built on a foundation of sand. It wasn't a market crash, and it wasn't some catastrophic emergency. It was a Tuesday. I was sitting in my car, gripping the steering wheel, dreading the walk into an office building where I spent 50 hours a week doing work that didn't matter to people who didn't care, all to earn a paycheck that disappeared precisely 48 hours after it hit my account. I looked at my banking app and saw a number that should have made me feel safe, but instead it just made me feel trapped. I had savings, I had a 401k, but I had zero control. If I stopped walking into that building, the money stopped, period. It's a terrifying realization when you understand that you are just a high-functioning battery powering someone else's machine. You trade your life energy for currency, and the moment you unplug, the lights go out. My name is Mr. Invests, and I spend way too much time thinking about the psychology of wealth and how to escape the rat race without losing your mind. If you're someone who stares at the ceiling at 2 a.m. wondering how you're going to do this for another 30 years, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Here's the thing about money that nobody teaches you in school. We are all obsessed with the wrong metrics. We look at net worth, we look at salary, we flex about how much our house has appreciated or what our crypto portfolio did last week. But here is the uncomfortable truth. Net worth is vanity. Cash flow is sanity. You cannot pay for your groceries with home equity unless you sell the house. You cannot pay your electric bill with a stock portfolio that's locked away until you're 65. The only number that actually buys you freedom, real, tangible, wake up whenever you want freedom, is passive cash flow. It's the money that hits your account while you are sleeping, while you are playing with your kids, or while you are sitting in traffic wondering why you're doing this. Most people think financial freedom is this binary switch. You're either working a soul-crushing job or you're a multi-millionaire sipping coconuts in the Maldives. But that is complete fiction. It's a lie that keeps you paralyzed because the gap between where you are and that beach in the Maldives feels impossible to bridge. But reality doesn't work like that. There is a gray zone. There is a transition period where you are still working, but the power dynamic shifts. This is the zone where your boss stops being your master and starts becoming your customer. It's the zone where you have options, and navigating that zone requires hitting 3 very specific mathematical milestones. Today, I'm going to break down these 3 passive income targets that fundamentally alter your brain chemistry and your bank account. I'm going to show you the math required to hit them, and I'm going to show you why the first one is statistically the hardest thing you will ever do. Let's start with milestone 1, the validation phase. This is $1,000 per month. That's $12,000 a year. Now, you might be thinking, Mr. Invests, $1,000 a month isn't enough to quit my job. I can't live on that. And you're right, you can't. But that is completely missing the point. Milestone 1 isn't about retirement. It is about proof. It is about proving to your skepticism that this stuff actually works. Because let's be honest, until you see that first deposit hit your account from a source that didn't require you to clock in, passive income feels like a scam. It feels like something other people do. People with rich parents or lucky breaks. Let's look at the math, because this is where it gets really interesting, and honestly, a little bit depressing if you don't know the shortcut. If you want to generate $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year using the traditional stock market route, relying on the safe 4% withdrawal rule, you need to have $300,000 invested in the market. 300 grand just to make $1,000 a month. When you see that number, it's easy to give up. For the average person saving 10% of their income, accumulating $300,000 is a 10 or 15-year project. It feels like pushing a boulder up a mountain of mud. This is why most people quit. They grind for 6 months, save a few $1,000s, see that their dividend payout is like $3.50, and they say, this is pointless. They do the math, realize they'll be 90 years old before they're rich, and they go back to leasing cars they can't afford to feel better about the job they hate. But here's what most people don't realize. You do not need $300,000 to hit milestone 1. You only need $300,000 if you're relying 100% on capital equity, money making money. But in the beginning, you don't have capital. You have sweat, you have time, you have energy. You can trade what I call sweat equity to bypass the capital requirement. Think about it like this. If you start a side business, a YouTube channel, or a service agency that you eventually automate, and that business profits $1,000 a month, you have effectively created an asset worth $300,000. Let me say that again because it is crucial. If you build a system that pays you $1,000 a month without your direct hourly labor, you have managed to hack the wealth equation. You built in 6 months what would have taken a traditional investor 15 years to save. Why does this $1,000 number matter so much if you can't quit your job? Because of what it does to your psychology. $1,000 a month covers your groceries. It covers your utilities. In some parts of the country, it covers your rent. Even if you are still working your day job, knowing that your basic existence, your food and your shelter is being paid for by your assets changes how you walk into the office. You are no longer desperate. You are no longer one missed paycheck away from disaster. You negotiate harder. You speak up more. The fear of being fired begins to evaporate because you know, worst case scenario, you won't starve. There's a concept in psychology called learned helplessness, where animals and humans stop trying to escape a painful situation because they believe they have no control. Milestone 1 breaks that cycle. It is the moment you realize you have control. The first time I made $1,000 in a month from the internet, I didn't go buy a watch. I didn't go on vacation. I stared at the screen and realized, oh, I can scale this. But getting to this first $1,000 is brutal. It is the hardest milestone of the 3 by far. It is like a rocket trying to leave the atmosphere. A rocket burns 80% of its fuel just to get off the ground. The first few miles are the hardest. You are fighting gravity, you are fighting air resistance, and you are fighting your own doubt. You will work for hundreds of hours for $0. You will write blog posts nobody reads. You will make videos nobody watches. You will analyze rental properties that don't pencil out. And you will feel like a fool. This is the valley of disappointment. It's that period where your effort is high, but your results are invisible. But if you push through, if you refuse to quit when the math looks bad, you eventually hit that $1,000 mark. And once you do, the physics of your wealth begin to change. Momentum takes over. But milestone 1 is just the warm-up. It's the validation that the machine works. Where life truly begins to look different, where you can actually start making life-altering decisions, is milestone 2. This is where we move from validation to survival. And the math here, it's going to shock you, because it's actually more achievable than you think. Let's talk about milestone 2, the survival phase. We are looking at roughly $3,500 per month or $42,000 per year. Now, in the personal finance world, specifically the FIRE community, financial independence, retire early, this is often referred to as lean FIRE. But I don't like that term. Lean implies you're starving. Lean implies you're scraping by, eating rice and beans in a dark room to save electricity. I prefer to call this the survival milestone, because this is the specific number where your biological need to hunt for survival disappears. The math here is where most people get their hearts broken, so let's address the elephant in the room immediately. If you are a purist, if you believe the only way to build wealth is by dumping money into an S&P 500 index fund and waiting 40 years, then hitting this milestone is mathematically exhausting. To generate $42,000 a year in passive income using the safe withdrawal rate of 4%, you need a portfolio of $1,050,000. $1,050,000. When you are sitting at your desk making $60,000 a year, looking at that number is like looking at the summit of Everest from the bottom of the ocean. It feels completely disconnected from your reality. You run the calculators, you input your savings rate, and the screen tells you, congratulations, you will reach financial independence in the year 2058. You'll be 70. That's not freedom, that's a retirement plan. But again, here's where the vehicle matters. The stock market is an amazing vehicle for preserving wealth and growing it slowly over centuries. It is arguably the worst vehicle for creating cash flow quickly.
If you pivot your strategy here, if you move from paper assets to tangible assets like real estate, the math changes. Rental yields are typically higher than dividend yields. While the stock market might pay you 1.5% or 2% in dividends, a decent rental property might yield 6% or 8% in cash flow, not counting appreciation. So instead of needing $1 million in stocks, you might be able to hit this $3,500 monthly target with $600,000 or $700,000 of equity in real estate. That is still a huge number, don't get me wrong. But it's a lot closer than $1 million. And if you are using leverage, mortgages, you can control those assets with significantly less of your own cash. But let's put the how aside for a second and focus on the why. Why is $3,500 the magic number? Why not $5,000? Why not $10,000? Because $3,500 covers the big three. In almost any city in America, barring maybe Manhattan or downtown San Francisco, $3,500 covers your housing, your food, and your transportation. These are the three expenses that create 90% of your existential dread. Think about the last time you were stressed about money. Really stressed. Were you stressed because you couldn't afford a Gucci belt? Were you stressed because you couldn't fly first class to Paris? No, you were stressed because you were worried about the rent. You were worried about the car breaking down. You were worried about the grocery bill inflation. These are survival threats. When you hit $3,500 a month in passive income, those threats evaporate. You are not rich. I want to be very clear about this. At milestone 2, you are not driving a Ferrari. You are probably driving a 5-year-old Toyota. You aren't eating at steakhouses every night. You're cooking at home. But, and this is the critical distinction, you are safe. The floor beneath your feet has turned into concrete. This creates what I call the toxic job shield. We have all had that boss, the one who micromanages you, the one who calls you at 7 p.m. on a Friday, the one who makes you question your own sanity. When you rely on your salary for survival, you have to take it. You have to smile, nod, and swallow your pride because you have a mortgage to pay. You are fragile. A single email from HR can ruin your life. But when you have $3,500 coming in every month from assets you own, the power dynamic in your career flips upside down. You stop walking on eggshells. If your boss is unreasonable, you can say no. If the company culture becomes toxic, you can leave. You won't be homeless, you won't starve, you won't default on your car loan. That psychological shift is impossible to overstate. It is the difference between being a servant and being a partner. I've seen this happen dozens of times. People hit this survival number and ironically, their active income explodes. Why? Because they stop acting out of fear. They take risks. They pitch bold ideas in meetings because they aren't afraid of being fired. They negotiate aggressively for raises because they are willing to walk away. And in the corporate world, the person who is most willing to walk away holds all the power. At milestone 2, your job becomes optional. You keep working because you want to build more wealth or because you actually like the work, not because you are terrified of the alternative. You enter a state of work optionality. The constant low-level background noise of anxiety, the hum of, what if I lose my job, goes silent. And when that noise stops, you finally have the mental bandwidth to think about the future. This is where people start businesses. When your rent is paid by your investments, you can afford to quit your job and spend 6 months building a startup. If it fails, you're back to where you started, but you're still safe. This is why the rich get richer. It's not just that they have money, it's that they have the safety net required to take the asymmetric risks that lead to massive wealth. Milestone 2 buys you that safety net. But here is the trap of milestone 2. It is comfortable. It is really, really comfortable. You have enough to live, you don't have to work hard, and the fear is gone. Many people get here and they coast. They stop building. They settle for a good enough life. And there is nothing wrong with that if that is what you want. But if you want true abundance, if you want the kind of wealth that is generational, the kind that allows you to help others and live without compromise, you have to push through the comfort. You have to climb to milestone 3. Milestone 3 is abundance.
We're talking about $8,300 per month, $100,000 a year, six figures of income for doing absolutely nothing. This is where the math stops being linear and starts becoming exponential. This is where the concept of money completely decouples from the concept of time. And the craziest part? Getting from milestone 2 to milestone 3 is actually mathematically easier than getting from 0 to milestone 1. You might be thinking, how is that possible? The jump is bigger. The jump in dollars is bigger, yes, but the momentum you have, that is the secret weapon. Let me explain how the math of abundance actually works and why hitting this number basically breaks the simulation of normal life. Let's talk about milestone 3, the abundance phase. We are talking about $8,300 per month. That is $100,000 a year. This is the holy grail. This is the number where the math becomes almost obscene. To generate this level of passive income using that same conservative stock market math, you need roughly $2.5 million invested. $2.5 million. At this level, the physics of money break down completely. If you have $2.5 million invested in a diversified portfolio and the market has an average year, let's say it goes up 10%, your net worth increases by $250,000. That is $250,000. You could sit on your couch, watch bad reality television for 12 months straight, contribute $0 to society, and your wealth would still grow by more than what a doctor or a lawyer earns working 60-hour weeks. This is called escape velocity. It is the point where your money is working so hard for you that you couldn't stop getting richer even if you tried. At $8,300 a month, you are decoupled from the labor market entirely. You can afford the luxuries. You can fly business class. You can drive the nice car. You can live in the nice neighborhood. And the craziest part? You can do all of that without ever touching your principal balance. You're living off the golden eggs without ever hurting the goose. But here's what most people don't realize about milestone 3. It is dangerous to look at it. When you are at 0, when you are that person sitting in the car dreading your shift, looking at the $2.5 million goal is toxic. It's like someone who has never run a mile in their life signing up for an ultra marathon and obsessing over the finish line. It is too far away. It is too abstract. And if you stare at it too long, you will get discouraged and you will quit. You have to zoom in. You have to ignore milestone 3. You even have to ignore milestone 2. Your entire existence, your entire focus must be on milestone 1, the validation, the first $1,000. Because the journey from 0 to $1,000 is not just about money. It's about rewiring your brain. It's about deleting the programming that society installed in you from birth, the programming that says time equals money. Breaking that link is the hardest thing you will ever do. It requires you to work 2 jobs. You have your day job that pays the bills, and you have your night job, your freedom job, that pays you nothing. You will be tired, you will be frustrated, you will watch your friends go out to bars and buy new clothes while you are at home aggressively paying down debt or researching dividend stocks or filming videos. You will feel like you're sacrificing your life for a payoff that might never come. And this is where the gray zone really tests you. It's that twilight phase where you are doing the work but not seeing the reward. You are pushing the car uphill in neutral. Every step is a struggle. But you have to understand the nature of exponential growth. Exponential curves look completely flat in the beginning. If you look at a graph of compound interest, the first few years look like a flat line. It looks like nothing is happening. But underneath the surface, pressure is building. The snowball is packing tight. And suddenly, usually right when you're about to give up, the curve bends. The move from 0 to $1,000 takes 50% of your total effort. It might take you 3 years. The move from $1,000 to $3,500 takes 30% of your effort. It might take you 2 years. The move from $3,500 to $8,300 takes 20% of your effort. It happens faster than you can imagine, because by then you have momentum, you have capital, you have knowledge. The wind is at your back.
So please, stop obsessing over the millions. Stop worrying about how you're going to retire in luxury. Just worry about the groceries. Just worry about getting to that first $1,000 a month that proves this is real.
I want to leave you with a question, and I want you to be brutally honest in the comments because I guarantee there is someone else reading them who feels exactly the same way you do. Where are you right now? Are you at zero, trying to figure out where to start? Are you in the trenches, making $200 or $400 a month, wondering if it's worth the grind? Or have you hit that validation point and you're starting to feel the momentum shift? Drop a comment below. Let's actually talk about this, because the financial industry wants you to think this is complicated. They want you to think you need a degree or a suit to understand this. You don't. You just need third-grade math and a terrifying amount of discipline. Look, I'm not going to lie to you and say this is easy. If it were easy, everyone would be wealthy. It is going to suck sometimes. You are going to doubt yourself. But here's what I know for certain. The math doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care if you are tired. It doesn't care if you had a bad day. If you save the money, if you buy the assets, and if you let time do its job, the result is inevitable. You are building a machine. Right now, you're tightening the bolt by hand. It's slow, it's painful, but one day you are going to flip the switch and that machine is going to run on its own. And when that day comes, when you wake up on a Tuesday morning and realize you don't have to go anywhere you don't want to go, you will realize that every single second of the struggle was worth it. So get back to work. Focus on the first 1,000. Ignore the noise. And I'll see you in the next video.